Derrick Henry has a new home, going from the Titans to the Baltimore Ravens.
The quarterback the Vikings brought in after Kirk Cousins headed to Atlanta. It is Sam Darnold. Aaron Jones becomes just the latest former Packers star to cross the border to Minnesota.
The Bengals are moving on from Joe Mixon, but they are, instead of releasing him and making him a free agent, trading him to the Houston Texans.
It is Zach Moss headed to Cincinnati.
Darnell Mooney, the former Bears receiver, has agreed to terms with the Atlanta Falcons to become a key new weapon for Kirk Cousins.
Day 2 of the legal tampering period. Maybe we need to get a new name for that. I know the league's trying to push back on it.
It feels very technical.
Because we know the league year is tomorrow.
There's no tampering. And this makes Andrew Siciliano very mad if you even say those words. No one should say those words.
Yeah, but Siciliano is also out here on live television on NFL Network yesterday saying, oh, you cannot dip chicken wings in any type of white sauce. Like, what?
He's got the platform. He's allowed to espouse his views on all topics.
That's dangerous, okay?
Well,
from the Chris Wessling podcast studio, it's Around the NFL. Dan Hanzus here with Gregg Rosenthal, Marc Sessler. You've already heard from all of us. We are probably going a little nuts, like the insiders, during these long days and long nights. And now we are back in Los Angeles. We touched down here about an hour ago on a plane, and I would love to say we were put into almost like a motorcade and taken straight here, but it was a mad scramble, finding a cab, get us in the building, and yet we're here now to give you the latest on the league. And I would say, again, another show coming off a wickedly disappointing award show that we're going to get to later in the program.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's spoiler.
That we're here.
Well, we don't need accolades. We need to continue to work. That's all we're asking.
Thank you.
Do. And for those that think that we've gotten a little too big for our britches, I am an hour and a half removed from sitting in the very back row of the plane where at all hours, someone's hips are hitting my ears and my head as they attempt to go into the lavatory. So like that does it sound like someone that just cares about status and, material?
No, I mean, it's always, we use the word heroes with, just a little wink maybe. A little
big for yourself.
A little twist. Today it's true though. For us to get off that plane straight from Austin and get back into the coal mine, the news mine.
It's true. And it's funny and I think telling, and I don't mind telling the audience this because iHeart Radio and it was the iHeart Podcast Awards. They were nice enough to send us down to Texas. We go down first class. First class, baby. Daddy's sitting there with a Miller Lite, enjoying myself. Plenty of room. The guy from Workaholics with the curly hair is sitting in front of us.
Yeah, took a selfie with him.
Everything's hunky-dory. I think there was something symbolic about going to Texas first class and then on the way to the award show and then a day after being pitiful losers in the and spoiler alert, we'll talk about it later, riding back in coach by the toilets. I think there was something there to dig into as well.
I think, seeking humility matters as you gain in age, and that's certainly, we discovered it today on the way back.
All right, so much to get to. So, did you have to deal with it? Because I was a couple rows ahead of you. Did you have to deal with any of those people just standing, waiting to use the bathroom, hovering over you?
These aircrafts have gotten smaller and smaller, and people's hips haven't gotten smaller. So I was literally sleeping for the first time ever on most of this flight, but kept getting jarred awake by the side of someone's hip, typically women's hips, just smashing me in the ear.
Wow. Why women's? Why do you have to add that little detail?
Yeah,
that makes me think you like it.
That
got him a little.
That's just called biology. It's just I feel bad for them. They're just trying to do what they're trying to do, but I'm also feeling bad for myself. It's I'm in the aisle seat. You lean left a little bit and you get banged in the ear.
Did not expect an Americans are turning into a bunch of fatties take from Mark, but here we go. Matt. I don't know why I feel crazy. It should be fine.
All right.
Fine.
Strike that from the show.
Let's dig in. Let's dig into everything that's happening. And let's start with the big news. I would say hit this round of applause drop because we saw the Derrick Henry to Ravens thing coming, but that feels give it to us anyway. Just get it. Because everybody seemed to feel like that was coming.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it did happen. Derrick Henry, who will be going to the Hall of Fame one day, and barring some remarkable late period, you don't think he's going to the Hall of Fame?
I just don't like it when people just put people in the Hall of Fame. I think he'll be a
I bet you like when certain people do. You just don't like that I did it.
Justin Graver tweeted today that he believes he'll be a Hall of Famer.
He is. When we talk about Hall of
right.
Fame, Greggy, we talk about Canton or any sport. Like, you can't tell the story of the league without talking about a player at his position. Like Derrick Henry, I think, is one of the faces of the running back position in the last 10 years.
Especially in this era, to do what he's done in this era of like running back by committee.
Maybe it's just I've heard the guys like who have the votes. Their backs always just go up when you say when you're just putting them into the Hall of Fame. You know,
well, that's on them.
One All-Pro first team, couple second teams. I would probably vote for him, but I'm saying he's not going to be like a rubber stamp.
All right, how about we have a couple big years in Baltimore and it won't be a debate because Derrick Henry is now joining the Ravens. 2-year deal worth up to $20 million. So there's $9 million guaranteed in his first season with Baltimore, and that might be all he gets guaranteed. And if it seems like the money's bigger for the running backs this year, I read again. I'll quote him all the time because I read him all the time. Bill Barnwell. The running backs are getting good money, but the salary cap went up. And running backs are actually they're commanding less of the salary cap for these teams percentage-wise than ever before. But you know, there's a lot of money flying around the league now because of the cap keeps on going upward. I would love to know. Let's put Eric to work early. Eric, what was the NFL salary cap in the 2010 season when Mark and I started at the company?
Can I get a guess too?
Yeah, well, take a guess.
No, I want Eric go first.
Because right now, what is it, 220?
No, it's 250 something.
Yeah,
right?
250. Yeah, it's up there. Yeah.
All right, so yes, you got it already.
I said. Quick Google search.
Oh, I thought he was gonna guess.
Why don't you? Why don't
I was asking him to look it up.
Guessing.
Why don't you guess, Greg?
Go ahead.
I'm gonna go 112.
That sounds about right. I'm
gonna go 120. I'm gonna go 42.
So you said 2010, correct?
Yes.
So first answer: with the owners deciding to exit the CBA in March 2011, the 2010 season had no salary cap.
Oh.
Well,
wait, I was close.
Well, then pick a year close.
2009.
No, I was close.
This is Hollywood, baby.
I'm just saying.
It was 0, and I said 42.
Salary cap in
We
2009.
have to start the show over.
123 million.
There we go. So I got it. I said 120. So
Did you really?
the dub, yeah.
That was pretty good.
All right,
I gave you a nice ballpark.
That was nice. You got us going in the right direction. But so anyway, that's all beside the point. The point is that Derrick Henry is a member of the Ravens now, and everyone is talking up, and rightfully so, Mark, this idea that the reigning MVP Lamar Jackson has explosive ability as an athlete, and now you add Derrick Henry to that mix, and all that does make a lot of sense. I'll caution just a little bit. I feel like I'd be a little more like, oh my God, the league is in a lot of trouble if this was 2020 Derrick Henry and 2020 Lamar Jackson. They're a little bit different players entering 24, but still an imposing duo and a move that makes so much sense for Baltimore.
I love the fit. I mean, we've exclaimed that we wanted this to happen, and to me it's about the player. It's like because lesser backs or average to better than average backs have thrived in that system, whether it was the past Gregg Roman offense or even this year. And I think when you add Derrick Henry to an attack where if you're a defender or a defensive coordinator, you've got the one quarterback in the league more than any other running quarterback outside of Josh Allen that you need to be hyper aware of where Lamar Jackson is on terra firma at all times. And now you add Derrick Henry to the mix. It's like a double headache. And I guess part of it is like I don't believe that Derrick Henry is going to fade come October, November. I believe he's got another year or two in him, and I think that makes the Ravens about as hyper dangerous as they've been in the Lamar Jackson era.
Right. You can use your rush yards over expected. You can use your broken tackles, all these fancy stats. I sometimes use my eyeballs.
Okay.
It tells me Derrick Henry's still running well. Thought he ran well last year. I thought he ran better than his numbers would show on a per carry basis, although he's still a workhorse, still 280 carries. Was second in the league in yards, so like he can still get it done. And when I think of the Ravens offense, you said it well, Mark, it's such a great place to be for a running back, especially in the red zone. I mean, all you got to do is be a Gus Edwards owner in fantasy leagues and know when the ball is handed off to Gus Edwards in the red zone, he usually just like walks into the end zone. No one's really around. Now you have Derrick Henry being the one that gets the ball. And the Ravens are so good at this. The running back market goes crazy. They just kind of sit there. They clearly had a price for Derrick Henry. They weren't going to go above it. And somehow Derrick Henry signs for like way less money than DeAndre Swift and not that much more than like Antonio Gibson and Singletary or Pollard, and like significantly less this year than Josh Jacobs. I don't quite get how that all worked out, because to me, running backs are year to year anyways. All these guys are, and I'd rather have Henry than any of those guys I just mentioned.
Well, I'm guessing
Maybe
it's
not
because of
Jacobs.
age and tread on tires.
And he's not a third down guy all the time, but he's gotten
not a
better
receiver.
at,
You know, like
gotten good at that screen game.
I mean, he threw a touchdown against the Ravens in the playoffs.
he could
back
throw
in
the
that-
football.
Yeah.
That's always been
I
in
think
his
he's
back
gotten
pocket.
better as a receiver, certainly over the last couple of years.
I would
Better.
guess a lot of teams, whether it's smart or not, are scared off by a guy that is entering his age 30 season, just turned 30 in January, and has over 2,000 rushes in his career. I remember when he came into the league, and much was made about how, because of Alabama's like embarrassment of riches, he didn't get used a ton in college in terms of workload. But he's certainly been a bell cow guy for many years now. So we'll see how much they can get out of him, and if he does have a vintage type season, yeah, that is scary. And to your point about goal line and the way it was for Gus the Bus, like maybe Lamar becomes a little bit more of a threat running now that they have this, like, great.
I think so. I think it's
Right
you got
behind him.
Lamar's a winner in this, absolutely.
And you got Patrick Ricard, their fullback, who's pretty dynamic and gotten into the mix. They had an interesting offensive
Did we bring
line.
up Keaton Mitchell, by the way?
Keaton Mitchell's coming off. I mean, he was incredible. He's coming off a major injury. That was a Spice Rack special.
Mm-hmm.
Keaton Mitchell. I don't think he actually said it on the show.
So it doesn't really count.
But I don't think we had him, and then he was texting it. He had receipts. I remember he was very excited about
Right, there's a paper trail.
Keaton Mitchell, and they're a very creative running game. It's very different than when Greg Roman was there, but very creative, mauling. And I just like when teams lean into having a personality. It's one of the reasons why the NFL is so great, and it's why you guys were on top of it, that this just made so much sense. It was such a Ravens move. It makes me more excited for whatever primetime game they put the Ravens in right off the top of the season.
Yeah, feel very good about the Ravens barring catastrophic injury being near the top of the AFC, and then it becomes, once again, now what do we do? How do we take that step? And maybe Henry is a big part of taking that next step once you get to January football. All right. By the way, the offensive line of the Ravens graded out number 6 overall per PFF last year. So Henry's also going into a much better situation there as well. Brian Burns, we mentioned it offhandedly at the end of the show that there was something percolating out there with some reporting around the edge rusher from Carolina and a potential move to the Giants, and it has indeed gone down. Rap Sheet reported that they make the trade, so Burns goes to the Giants in exchange for 2nd and 5th round picks. Of course, eyebrows shoot up because Burns famously was a target of the Rams, who were reportedly looking to give up 2 first-rounders, or willing to give up 2 first-rounders to get Burns. I believe it was last year or the year before.
While they were falling apart, yeah.
And the management at the time for the Carolina Panthers said no thanks. So it's a bad look, obviously. I know it's leadership changes, but organizationally it's a terrible look. So it goes from 2 first to a 2nd and a 5th. And of course the Giants then turn around and give Burns a big new contract, a 5-year extension worth a maximum of $150 million, almost $88 million guaranteed. So, Greg, he's the 2nd highest paid edge rusher in the league. He's 26 years old. I have to say this about Burns. He's one of those guys you always hear about, and this is part. He's playing in Charlotte, which is the black hole right now. Is he as good as you kind of hear? Is he as good as they say? Is he worthy of that type of money when it comes to edge rushers in football?
I think he has been, but not last year quite as much. And so he was coming off of an injury, and his numbers were still good, and he graded out pretty well. It wasn't like it was a bad year. But to me, coming off that injury, he wasn't exactly the same player. Before that, yeah, I would say he's a top 10 edge rusher. Now, he's probably at the bottom end of that 10, but I'd rather have him than, let's say, Danielle Hunter, who was in this market. And he's so young, and he's so quick off the ball. He always rates really well in those stats of like pressure within 2.5 seconds. And he's been in a spot where he's always been the man, getting a lot of the attention on a team that's not often trailing. So he gets like less opportunities and everything, and just very dynamic. And I don't think you can get a pass rusher this good for any cheaper than this. So I think it's a good move for the Giants, and the Panthers just weren't ready to give him that money. I don't know. On some level, I'm almost confused because you do need good players, no matter what stage of your rebuild you're in. If you're the Panthers,
Well, and understandably, Panthers fans, famous ones and civilians are going absolutely nuts over this. And
wait, who are the famous ones?
there's a country singer that had like this gigantic tweet about
Luke
like
Combs.
Yeah, it was like, is this?
I thought you meant David Ely.
Is this organization just trying to set itself on fire essentially? But I mean, I think if you're the Giants, because a day ago it's all about you botched Saquon Barkley, or you let him go and he went to your rival, and it's like a bad look for the Giants, who also lost Xavier McKinney. But I would say that overall, when you look at what the value they got Brian Burns for, which is a coup d'etat compared to what the Rams were going to spend, they added John Runyon along the line, Jermaine Melanor, and I don't love Devin Singletary, but to patch up Saquon, like they had a pretty good day. Like they are addressing. I think Joe Shane is a quality GM.
Drew Lock's in the building as Daniel Jones's backup.
Well, to me, it's pretty clear that they're open to maybe drafting someone too. But like, I just think that the Giants, like, it's not as big of a tire fire as it appeared to be 24 hours ago.
Yeah, that's why with free agency, everybody's got to chill. Day one, everyone wants your team to go totally nuts. You just got to let it play out and see where things stand at the end of the week. Also, from the office of corrections, we got a Van Ginkel edit today.
Yeah, we do.
I'm going to move out of the way, and you guys could discuss what.
Well, that was on me. I put him under the Giants. I'm not sure if that was even ever a report or just my mistake throughout the day. It was always on that rundown. Van Ginkel's not on the Giants. I mean, if the only source you have of news in the NFL is the Around the NFL podcast, and you're a Giants fan, and you just made like your own Van Ginkel jersey or posters, who knows, at home, I have bad news for you. He's a member of the Minnesota Vikings.
Can I just say also, like, I was surprised because all we've been hearing on this program is Mark's infatuation with the Van Ginkel. You would think that would not miss your radar, Mark, that you would have been the one to.
Well, that's fair, but I am the one that put it down.
I piggybacked off of.
But Mark was supposed to be the safety net with all things
you are
Van
right.
Ginkel.
In my notes, I said it makes sense that he repairs with Brian Flores, and then I was like, well, I must be wrong because he's on the Giants, and it's like, no, he went back to pair with Brian Flores, the Vikings defensive coordinator.
Right.
And it doesn't like decrease my belief in Van Ginkel, the fact that we made a podcast error.
No, if anything, it's a better fit for him in Minnesota. I like what
it shook me a little bit.
Flores.
Right, but a true sports show of the year would take a minute to say on us.
Well, they maybe wouldn't have made that mistake.
Yeah.
Although I think
that's possible.
I honestly can't remember in 12 years of doing this podcast where we had to come back the next day and we got a free agent signing just completely off. So
that's pretty good.
So that's a first. I do, before we go,
Shannon Sharp has never made an error when he speaks.
That's true.
You can barely understand.
Good for him.
I do have just two quick things. One, congrats to, as Mark mentioned, Jermaine Illuminor, who's like a friend of our friend Henry Hodgson, product of the International Player Pathway Program.
What a pipeline
at
that's
age
become.
29 just got life-changing money, 2 years, $14 million after he's kind of bounced around in the league, and what a great moment for him. But I wanted to read this tweet. It was from Scott Barrett on Twitter, of just, if you combine the Burns, Bryce Young, and Christian McCaffrey trades for what the Panthers got and what they gave up. And this includes the trade they essentially didn't make with the Rams, which is, kind of cheating, but it does make it fun. Here's what the Panthers traded. Caleb Williams, assuming that's the number 1 overall pick.
Should we tell David Ely to cover his ears?
Or the number 1 overall pick. Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, a top 10 pick in the 2023 draft. That was the Rams pick. The Bears drafted a tackle. A second-round pick in the 2023 draft. A first-round pick in the 2024 draft, and a first-round pick in the 2025 draft. That's what they passed on. Here is what they got.
Oh, no.
Bryce Young, 1 year of Brian Burns, a defensive or a linebacker by the name of DJ Johnson, who was ranked 125th at the edge position by PFF last year.
Promising.
And 2 fifth-round picks. I mean, that's an all-timer. That is a series of moves, and it's like, oh, it's not all the same guy. It's like, it's your organization. That is a series of moves as catastrophic as I can remember.
I can flip it and say they're a very charitable organization. They give to others.
And I think, as always, Luke Combs has his finger on the pulse. Because he was the first one to point out 22 hours ago, no first-round pick for McCaffrey a few years back, and now none for Burns. Are we just firebombing the whole team here, or what?
Right.
Combs is right.
I like that tweet. I think he's,
I'm not familiar with Combs' catalog, but I know he's enormously popular.
It is the 37th overall pick in this draft. It's close to being a first rounder. It's a long road for these.
All right. Anyway.
Somewhere Scott Fitterer is driving around like in a cream-colored Porsche down in the South. It's like you buried one of the 32 NFL franchises.
If I'm Daniel Jones, by the way, Drew Lock it's like a medium result of what could have happened this offseason for your backup. They gave him $5 million guaranteed, which tells me like he'll play. If you're not playing well, Daniel Jones, you're not ready. Drew Lock will
if
play.
I'm a starting quarterback in the NFL and they sign Drew Lock as my backup, I'm not losing sleep.
Okay.
I mean, Drew Lock.
I think Mark's right. They maybe draft someone too, but maybe
I think you have to.
maybe not at the
What are you like? Where are we going?
Talking about Drew Lock. All right. In other news, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Joe Mixon marriage is over. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reports that Mixon, who a day ago was believed that he was going to be waived, instead they pull the trigger on a trade. So they send him to the Houston Texans. So his 8th season in football will be with Houston. Of course, the Texans, as we mentioned, lost Devin Singletary to the Giants in free agency. Mixon joins Dameon Pierce in that backfield now. So we'll see what we get from Mixon. Mark, on paper, it looks like a nice upgrade for the Texans. He had over 1,400 yards last year, 12 touchdowns. In general, looked like a guy that had been trending downward and then said, no, I'm not done yet. So it's weird that this is when he gets cut or let go by Cincinnati, but Houston takes on the former Pro Bowler.
It's obviously not great news for Dameon Pierce. They struggled, he and the rest of that team struggled to run the ball inside an attack that was so promising through the air. So I think it's a good landing spot for Mixon to come in and upgrade it. It leaves me wondering a little bit about the Bengals because we've got a lot of moving parts in Cincinnati for a team that offensively was sitting in a Super Bowl window, and it's like we're looking at wide receivers exiting stage left. They signed Zach Moss on a 2-year, $8 million deal to essentially replace Joe Mixon. I think Moss actually looked really good in Indianapolis at stretches last season, but that's the first season I've really felt that way about him at all.
Yeah, I'm fine with that move for the Bengals. I think they were clearly surprised that anyone wanted to trade for Mixon because it was announced as a release.
You thought he was going to get cut last offseason.
Right, and it was
1,400 yards and 12 touchdowns is not the work of a bad running back.
No.
Not bad, and the Texans, look, they know, Bobby Slowick and D'Amico Ryans, they know more than I do about what they want in their running back. I thought he came out of the gates looking very fresh and like, oh, the old Joe Mixon's back, and then as the season wore on, that burst isn't there. I always loved Joe Mixon as in terms of his running style. He came out of college and had that questionable background and ended up having a nice career with the Bengals, but I think his best days are behind him. And my guess is they would draft someone too, but it's not a great running back class. So you pair Mixon probably with like a 3rd round pick, and Pierce is probably in the rear view. There's always one of those every year, by the way, where like someone gets announced as a release and someone's watching free agency frenzy at home, and Nick Casero's like, I'd give up a 7th round for Mixon. I like that contract. It's fine.
Still just 27 years old.
Yeah.
But he's been around for a while now, and we'll see if he could still play the guitar.
Geno Stone's a big pickup
south
for them, too. He's making more than any of these other guys they signed.
You know what? Lamar Jackson tweeted Geno Stone and said essentially, you're gone. You're dead to us.
Said you're dead.
There's been a lot of that going on with these.
But remember, we have the conversation about you got to be careful, like when your buddy breaks up with his girlfriend and you bury her and then they get back together. Like, what happens if that would have fallen through? And Geno's coming back.
You're right. It was reckless.
Lamar just basically said, I hate you.
Right. We don't advise.
I think it was tongue in cheek. And my guess
dead
is
serious. Also, possibly dead serious.
Yeah.
We don't know
buddies.
for sure.
While we're on the Texans, just quickly, I do like their moves lately. They've been raiding the Titans, which is going to be annoying Titans fans. Azeez Al-Shahir, Danico Autry. I really like the Al-Shahir signing because he was with D'Amico Ryans in San Francisco. I think he's really good and could have a sneaky Pro Bowl type season with the Texans. They also re-signed Noah Brown.
You also know what you're going to get with Danico Autry. You know it's going to be productive.
It's good.
It's going to work.
I feel like a lot of people are going to be picking the Texans to win that division.
Sneaky, financially exciting career from Danico Autry. He's probably signed about 6 of these.
Financially exciting.
I'm just saying, you think of Kirk Cousins.
Financially active or actually exciting? I mean, exciting is the way to describe it.
Frisky.
I mean, my brain is just so off right now. But financially lucrative, I guess.
Sure.
You know,
Adventurous.
he just keeps signing these like $12 million contracts like every other. You know, he's getting it done at age 30.
Breaking news.
Whoa. What's going on here?
Breaking news. The Texans and Danielle Hunter are in business. The Pellraiser reports that the 4-time Pro Bowl defensive end is signing with Houston.
Wow.
Credits rap sheet as well. That's the same Hunter coming off a big year in Minnesota. He has 87.5 career sacks, and he immediately fills the void left by Jonathan Grenard, who left for the Vikings day earlier.
He traded.
That's a nice plug of a hole there in quick manner by Houston.
Interesting.
Wow, yeah.
They chose him over Grenard, who's he's 3 or 4 years older. He's certainly been a better player overall than Grenard in his career. He's 3-4 years older. 2 years, but they're paying him more than Grenard is making too. 2 years, $49 million with $48 million guaranteed. We haven't seen many deals like that short and that big, but it's kind of perfect in this. CJ Stroud has a low contract and they have all sorts of cap space, so he'll be back off the books before they even need to really worry about their cap space.
I wouldn't have minded them hanging around with Grenard, who I think showed so much promise, but if he's departed, you've gone and found someone to pair with Will Anderson, and like these teams that try to get by with one monster pass rusher, it's like you're always going to be seeing that guy get double and triple teamed, and it's like right now, like this trend of getting two dudes that can kind of free up each other in the inside of the line as well. I love it.
I mean, with
Houston's
Wilkins and Crosby yesterday with the Raiders.
That coaching staff gets like everyone on that defense to play. It's kind of Niners-like. And
Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau. Yes, it's to be able to pair two studs causes a lot of trouble for opposing teams.
They're going to be such a trendy pick, but it's like, well, it all makes sense. CJ Stroud's their quarterback, and you look at their defensive line right now. They added Foley Fatukasi. They added Autry. And now they add Hunter along with Anderson. I had mentioned I love the Al Shahir signing. Like D'Amico Ryans got as far as they did without really a great defense. I think they were kind of an opportunistic defense, and now they have a chance to step it up while CJ Stroud gets better. That is something. A little challenge trade though. Not exactly a trade, but Vikings say we'll take your guy. Texans says we'll take your guy.
It's kind of interesting to think about it, but when you look at the two South divisions, will the Texans and Falcons come out of this offseason as the two biggest favorites to win their divisions?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the
biggest in any division?
No, in their own.
Or just
no, in any division.
Wow.
Like,
really?
I believe the Falcons will be, whether or not they actually will be,
like over the Chiefs.
Good. No, the Chiefs, the Chiefs obviously, who the Chiefs got in there? They got the Raiders. The Chargers with Harbaugh will make it a little interesting, but you're probably right. The Chiefs probably will come up.
But I think you're talking about two teams that have shot up the charts.
Right, but after the Chiefs, it might be, to me, it might be these two divisions in terms of like where everyone's going to be.
Pretty wild when you think about that they won 3 games a year ago, but you're not wrong. They'll both be favorites.
All right, let's take a break, and when we return, more news. Dearest Sam, I am writing you today to offer my heartfelt congratulations on the beginning of a beautiful new adventure. 6 years ago, you entered my world like an avalanche of hope. I, and many like me, believed you would be our salvation after decades in the darkness. Alas, the fates played cruel tricks on us all. You were treated in a careless manner and casually tossed away. As my people floundered, you wandered. This week's arrival with the mighty Vikings of Minnesota, an obvious choice for the 2024 team of around the NFL, feels like the end of your undeserved exile and the beginning of, at long last, a fair and true opportunity to succeed on the grand stage. I have no doubt you will fend off any competition, thrive in a healthy new environment, and expose each of your critics as the rude, thoughtless little pigs they so clearly are. As for myself, I will champion you from afar, my warm feelings tinged with the bittersweet, a wistful melancholy only former lovers can truly understand. Safe journey aboard your Norse longship, sweet prince. Skull forever. Signed, your admirer from afar. Sam Darnold to the Minnesota Vikings.
That the beautiful sound, romantic sound of the number 2
Only
pencil
lovers.
on the
Only
on the,
lovers
on
could
the Dan Hanzus
understand that.
journal.
Not even
Right.
like family members or just physical lovers. And then
If someone's
you
writing
and
from
your
the heart-
relationship with Sam.
The heart wants what the heart wants, and
Yes.
I commented on this that I really have wanted Darnold to get a true fresh start because like what happened, it's funny considering Baker went number 1 and Sam went number 3. What Baker got last year is what all I was thinking even during this 49ers season where he was like, one heartbeat away from getting into that lineup and maybe being able to make an impact. Just wanted him to have a chance. And he kind of has exactly, in some ways, the Baker setup now where we don't know. And they might go and draft somebody in April. So I don't want to put the cart before the horse totally. And the contract came out and at first it was $10 million. And I'm like, oh, he's definitely their starter. We don't know how much guaranteed money is coming into this, but don't you just get the feeling that Kevin O'Connell, and he obviously likes him a lot, Kyle Shanahan obviously liked him a lot. There are people that are champions of this guy and they're believing his potential, that I would not be surprised if O'Connell wants to see if he can get that Baker season out of Darnold and maybe reset the franchise with a depreciated asset who can outperform greatly on what they signed him for.
Yeah, for like the pocket of humans that continue to champion Darnold, and I think there's reasons to believe. You look at where he was with the Jets and Panthers and say, total disorganization, morphing right into total disorganization, where he was actually on the same team as Baker Mayfield. They went into the hive and they came back out. Baker's had his chance. This is the best situation Darnold's been in terms of the personnel around him. I don't put it beyond Minnesota. They are in a rebuild mode to some degree that they are sitting at number 11. It just feels possible, maybe even likely, that they trade up to get up to number 5 somewhere and get J.J. McCarthy, and then it's Darnold in a competition. But Darnold is actually, I don't know if he's a perfect bridge, but he's a guy you could feel excited about seeing what he could do because it's
I hope that's not what happens, but it's certainly possible.
Yeah,
they also
the
go
realm
out,
of possibility.
They get Aaron Jones also, so he gets cut loose by the Packers, so they add him. I love Kevin O'Connell. There's a reason he's one of the most popular coaches in the league in terms of that union poll and also the results you've seen. So I think he has the right coach. He has the best wide receiver in the league. He's got a running back, I think, that's going to have a chip on his shoulder. I think it's a pretty good setup if it happens for him this time.
Yeah, they're not done building. They hit a home run last year with their draft. I don't know if we're going to have KJ Osborne back, but I love Jordan Addison as a 2. Hawkinson. You couldn't. I get it. The Darnold hive is out there, and when this news happened, my immediate reaction was how obnoxious the Darnold hive is going to be for the next 5 to 6 months. And half of our listeners appeared to respond with this here.
It's a Dan Hanzus shout out.
And it wasn't, Paul Rudd. It wasn't. That's why if I wanted to shout him out, I'm not into
you do
blind items on Twitter.
Well, I will say, but you understand why there
It's-
might have been.
Yeah, no, I get it. And we do the show together with the listeners.
we happen to.
But
yes.
it's bigger than just Dan. It's Daniel Jeremiah,
Yes,
who
he's
had
the
him
leader.
number 1 overall. It's Mina Kimes, who's always thought he was going to be great. It's Nate Tice, who thinks he's this quarterback talent. It's Bill Barnwell. It's all the big tape heads and names in the business. They've always all believed in Sam Darnold.
And you couldn't even put him in your 101.
And yet you watch him play football, and it's never really happened for him.
Because some people are able to look past the circumstances and see, even you look at his last time as a starter at the Panthers, he put some good tape out there, and some of the data backs that up, and they see that this is a guy that has never been in position to succeed, and there are so many quarterbacks. There are very few quarterbacks in the league that can overcome ineptitude all around them. He's not one of them. So I'm not saying he's going to become a top 10 quarterback, but I think he has the potential to be a guy that's on the right side of the Dalton scale if he gets his chance, and I hope he does. And I don't think I'm not going to be too obnoxious.
No,
this summer.
I'm having fun with it.
if he lights it up in September, it could be an issue.
The only
but
thing
we'll see.
the one little
I like that we get this. That this is a great way if it happens. I don't because the Vikings could go out and get a quarterback.
Oh, I think they're going to.
I do too.
Well, if he gets his starts this year, it's going to put to bed something that it's not just me. There are other people that have always wondered, and this feels like a good, like, healthy setup for him.
The one little drama magnet out there that kind of concerns me a little bit is you've got to keep Justin Jefferson happy. I mean, he's become one of those wide receivers where it's like he can't float through his career with poor quarterback play. You've moved on from Kirk Cousins. I'm sure he wasn't happy about that. And so there is some pressure on Darnold to come in and, like, he's now in that thing where, like, your number one star diva wide receiver needs to be fed correctly on a weekly basis.
They will.
You want to be happy?
Justin Jefferson's going to
so.
get fed. I
Right.
mean,
You want to be happy? Just listen to Kwesi at the Combine saying that Justin Jefferson deserves and will be the highest paid player in the league, non-quarterback, which is a bold statement.
Yeah.
You're only going to say that, I think, if you've already actually made that offer and he didn't accept it and you're still, like, working it out. I mean, that is an amazing thing. So there's no way they are ever going to trade him. And I think the contract, and we haven't seen the details, but whether the base salary is 6, 8, 9, whatever it is, to me, that actually tells you exactly who he is, which is an in-between, not a backup, not a starter, a guy you pair with your rookie, certainly above what Baker got last year and a lot above what Sam Darnold got last year. He only got $3 or $4 million last year. But someone that's not necessarily expected to start 17 games, that the rookie's going to have a chance, most likely, if they can get one.
and Kwesi, he's looking at it like, we think we have something in here with him potentially, and if he can be a league average or better quarterback, would I rather have Sam Darnold for 7 or be paying Kirk Cousins still 40? Like,
Well, I think they did the right thing for their team. Like,
I
we
agree.
talked about that yesterday, yeah.
When you needed to draft a new guy anyways, I think that's the smarter move. Aaron Jones is an interesting signing, just that one day he turns down a pay cut from the Packers and then he joins the rival. We've seen this move before, especially with the Packers and the Vikings, and adds a little juice. I think he was playing well at the end of last year. Reportedly, he turned down a contract with the Packers that would have brought his salary down to $4 million. He ends up getting 6 from the Vikings, so he does come out ahead. He must have known that before he did it, and now he can get a little revenge.
I still remember, like, broadcasting a show from home when he signed that monster deal with the Packers, and, like, it just shows you that 700 days later, it just doesn't matter.
If he's healthy, he's in a
a lot can change in 700 days in life, especially in the
It's
NFL.
disturbing.
By the way, any Van Ginkel Vikings takes about where he fits in Fangio's defense?
Well, it's Brian Flores who
Flores.
who knew him so well in Miami, and I think that Van Ginkel started to get on the radar of the the hipster Van Ginkel crowd during that Flores run in Miami, and then continued in a different scheme. And it's like he kind of seems like he could fit in anything, certainly with the Vikings.
adding Darnold to, they really are the hipster team this year. So instead of signing Cousins for all that money, they get Darnold, hipster favorite, Van Ginkel, Blake Cashman, Jonathan Grenard. Like, they have been, Aaron Jones, been extremely active here in free agency.
It's like it's like the Silver Lake of the NFL.
They are not looking at it like we're taking some huge step back. They're year 3 under O'Connell. They're definitely trying to compete. They just thought this was the time at quarterback to make the change.
Some real team of ATN vibes here.
No,
Maybe a
we
conversation.
were never doing
just a
the Vikings
conversation
again.
Well, but you know what? Can I argue
Just a
why? Can I
conversation.
argue why it is a conversation? Because like it's like you bounce away from them for like 4 seasons, but we made a mistake last year. But now this would be the year that when we don't pick them, they thrive. Or
care. I'm
they
not
start
rooting
3-1,
for
we pick them and they lose 7 out of 8, which is typically
I'm
what
saying
the
get
Vikings
in
do to
early.
us. Yeah.
Get in early.
It would be good to pick one before the season starts. Whenever we pick midway through, like, they immediately go on a losing
I also have a
streak.
lot of fun Vikings drops, so those are always fun to.
I'm just saying it's a conversation. And Vikings fans are screaming right now at their listening device, don't do it, don't do it.
Right.
But it just might make the most sense. In other news, the Falcons, speaking of Kirk Cousins, so Cousins has a good setup. I think Darnold has a good setup where Cousins used to be. I think Cousins has a nice setup in Atlanta because you have Drake London as your number 1. You have Kyle Pitts as your tight end with number 1 potential. You have Bijan Robinson, who has potential to be the best running back in the league. They did seem to be missing that second piece after Calvin Ridley disappeared in the wideout game. How about Darnell Mooney? So he lands 3 for 39, 26 guaranteed. This is one of my favorite moves, Greg, of free agency in the first 2 days. I think Mooney was a depreciated asset. He's 1 year removed from a 1,100-yard season with Chicago. And if you put him in a functional offense with a pocket passer with elite skills like Cousins, I think that Mooney can definitely bounce back and become a real dude in that offense. I love this move.
I do too. He's a unique player because there just aren't many players that get open consistently deep down the field. Now he's not a big player, and you do see him struggle sometimes in those contested catch situations. But he was in a tough spot, and there was a lot of chatter of like, if you just watch the Bears tape, like he's out there getting open, and they don't have anyone. Yeah, they need a 2. They need a 3 and a 4 and a 5. They are going to need to get active in terms of the draft and just like getting some rotation players. But he's someone that I think you can be confident. He takes a full complement of snaps, and the interest was there for him. He got a lot more guaranteed money, for instance, than Gabe Davis. We'll see if he gets more than Calvin Ridley when he signs tomorrow. Sounds like he's probably going to sign with the Jaguars, by the way, while we're here, because if he signs with the Jaguars on Wednesday, they only have to give up a 3rd-round pick. If he re-signs with the Jaguars, which would mean today, they have to give up a 2nd-round pick. And the fact that he's just floating out there means I don't think the Patriots
Isn't that
are going
like,
to get
I was
there.
trying to make sense of this. Isn't that like an easy trade term to circumvent?
Yes.
Like, why did
they are doing that?
But that seems such an easy way to do it. I feel like this was the Falcons, right? This is why did they put the language like that where the Jaguars could just easily just wait an extra day?
It wouldn't surprise me if this is an issue brought up with like the NFL management council or whoever decides these sort of things.
Iron it out.
It seems a little shady to me, and the Patriots probably aren't going to get him. That was a side point, but Darnell Mooney. Well, Tulane connection, by the way. Tulane GM Terry Fontenot in Atlanta.
Greg, nobody
couldn't get rid of him.
Greg, not a single person can.
Tulane wide receiver Darnell Mooney. It's a little Green Wave loyalty there.
This is not a Tulane college podcast, but I appreciate the fact that you went to school there. He had 140 targets in that 1,000-yard season. He's only had 122 over the last 2 years. So I do think that he's in for a larger role, and they slotted in correctly with the Falcons.
Speaking of,
and I'm glad you went to Tulane, Greg. That's
no, I
great.
just mean
wait, you went to Tulane?
I just mean this is probably the last time ever there's going to be a big time free agent signing Tulane to Tulane.
Greg, by the way,
ever.
I mean, unless Fontenot goes and finds who else we got.
Don't worry. I won't get into detail. But how about some of those mega Greg reveals on the way to the airport today about his days at Tulane? Whoa.
Yeah, I thought it was confessional.
Whoa.
Learned a lot.
I lose track of what stories I have told you guys and what ones
Just happy
I
you're
haven't.
here.
Explosive.
Oh, stop.
Happy you're here. In other, hold on to your butts. Patriots talk. They signed Jacoby Brissett, so they add the veteran quarterback to the room. A guy that's everybody loves Jake Brisket. I feel like we've been talking about Jake Brisket on the show since the very beginning. So much so that the Jake Brisket drop that accompanies, yes,
Ooh, slice me off a piece of that Jake
has gotten use that, if Frags could get just a slice of royalties. I would say Frags seems like she's pretty good with money, with some of these trips she takes in the summer. But she probably wouldn't say no to more money.
No,
little mailbox cash, as they call it.
She is.
That's how you make those trips.
If I've ever critiqued her to her face, it was like, why aren't you actually becoming a voiceover artist in our town here in Hollywood? You
Right.
could be making total bank.
A lot of competition. As Zumwalt, that's a lot. Before
Yeah,
he
but
struck
she's-
gold with our company, Jay makes $7 million a year doing voice for us. It was a grind because there's so much competition. You know that Zumwalt, I went with him once. This is years ago. It would have been 2008. We were living in Hollywood, and I drove. Jay didn't know how to drive at the time, or he didn't have his license at the time. So
What was he, 14? Like, how old is he?
Jay's your age around.
Okay.
So he's not a kid. So I drove him, and we drove to a studio, like a production studio in Culver City, and I just sat in on a recording session where Jason had to redub all of Steven Seagal's lines to some like straight to video made in Korea film or made in Russia film at the time. And so just imagine watching Jason Zumwalt, the voice of God and around the NFL, making grunting sounds in the voice of Steven Seagal for 3 hours. It was amazing.
Can we purchase this tape? I want to watch this.
So that's the life of a voisover.
I almost need to leave the room right now. It's just too much.
Also, the voice of Roman Bellick in Grand Theft Auto is mega fan gamers know. All right, let's get back on track. Little Zumwalt shout out. Jake Brisket is in the room. He's a quarterback. Pat's going to take a quarterback number 3 overall? Maybe, probably. So Jake is in there as a great veteran alongside a young quarterback that is coming in now that Mac Jones is out of the picture with Jacksonville. They also re-signed offensive lineman Micah Wennu. I think I got it.
You got it.
Yeah.
To a 3-year, $57 million contract, $38 million guaranteed. That's nice money. They also re-signed Josh Uche on a 1-year deal. He wanted to stick around. He wanted to stay with the Patriots. Calvin Ridley reportedly is potentially going to give up money that the Patriots want to give him to stay in Jacksonville. There's a report out there,
right,
that the Pats are hot for Ridley, but Ridley's not so hot for the Pats, and he wants to stay in Jacksonville. So, Patriots active today.
Look, if their plan here is to bring me back in, get me more enthused.
By the way, and the only reason you're out is because you don't go to the Super Bowl every year now, which is always a little bit of an underreported aspect of Gregg's not a big fan anymore.
Underreported.
As soon as they stopped winning Super Bowls, you bailed.
I said it on this show. Everyone was very
just bad fandom.
Upset. It wasn't so much bail. It's just like, we've hit the peak. You're a little less into it. Tom Brady's gone. What are you going to replace?
Hey, why don't you grow up?
What are you going to replace Tom Brady? How about replace him with one of the guys that actually started for him while he was serving his suspension back in the day with some exciting moments as a rookie? I mean, you get Jake Brisket in the building, and then you get either Drake May or Jaden Daniels, and you got the perfect quarterback tutor. That is an exciting combo, and I do like they kept. This is very different than the Belichick area. They kept the players that I would want them to keep. Uche ended up only signing for 1 year, $3 million. Mike Garafolo says he passed up money to stay elsewhere. He probably passed up like second-year money, and he's betting on himself to have a bigger year. But it is interesting to me that these guys want to stay with Mayo. And I really like Onwenu. I mean, he's been their best offensive lineman, most consistent, versatile over the last couple of years. So it's like they keep the guys they like. They bring in the guy I like. I see you, Gerard Mayo. I see what you're doing.
And their front office. It's not just a one-man
probably
band
Elliot
at this
Wolf.
point.
It's really not Gerard Mayo.
But I think Brissett is
what lineage?
Brissett's the perfect person for this situation. And like he's proven he can do this over and over. And it's notable that like Alex Van Pelt is a true offensive coordinator. Like he was under Stefanski during that year that Brissett shined in Cleveland, but he went after Baker or at least reportedly, and he knows what he's getting in Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett is a celebrated, like Kevin Stefanski called him like the best teammate he's ever observed in a locker room. So this Patriots team could use a little bit of that, and whatever rookie they draft, and I assume they will, it's the perfect kind of path from there here A to B.
And it's similar money to Darnold. I think he's getting $8 million. I think we aren't gonna know what they're doing. I'm gonna guess until draft week or draft night. I think they're leaving themselves some wiggle room here. If someone gives them a Godfather offer, they might say, "Let's move down. Let's pick up a bunch of picks. Who knows? Maybe we'll take a second or third round quarterback, and we just go with that for now. If we're not in love with who's there at 3."
If Jake Brisket is one of the best veteran quarterbacks you'd want in a room with a young hotshot rookie, I would say among lower on the list would be Marcus Mariota, who quit on his team a couple years ago. But apparently he keeps getting hired, so people must like the guy. I don't get it. The Commanders agreed to terms with Marcus Mariota on a contract that's worth up to $6 million, which is, again, what has Mariota done in the last 8 years in this league?
Everyone wants to fix these high quarterbacks.
What is a pretty pick privilege, as Mina called it. So he's the number 2 pick is going to Washington. They're going to obviously take a quarterback. So this is bad news for Sam Howell, who went from midway through last season, maybe Sam Howell is the long-term answer to, I don't even know if he's on the team anymore, the way this looks. So that's one big move for Washington, or a move for Washington. The other one would be Austin Eckler, and this is, it is tough out there for running backs because Eckler went from scoring 20 touchdowns a year for a run there to having a down contract year in 2023, and he signed a 2-year deal with the Commanders. Not a lot of sizzle there, worth up to $11.43 million. less than $5 million total in 2024. So that is obviously when Eckler was holding out last summer, and he was like, "Look at my production, look who I am." The worst case scenario came true, short of getting a catastrophic injury, which is he didn't play as well, the tape didn't look hot, and then he didn't get paid very well. But at least he got a job. Could have been worse. There were guys last year, if you remember, like the Dalvin Cooks of the world, that hung out all through the offseason looking for a job. Eckler gets paid, but not what he wanted.
I mean, Antonio Gibson out the door to New England. So you pair him with Brian Robinson. I think, reading some stuff that Eckler put out there today, he's pretty active on social media, seems highly motivated to kind of wipe away the narrative from last year and what happened on a bad Chargers team. I don't hate it. And this is a team also from from the Mariota standpoint. Absolutely, they're drafting a quarterback. I'm just assuming that without any question at this point. And there's whispers that Howell, if someone else wanted to make something out of them, that they would maybe move Howell.
Which, to me, he'd be a fun backup.
I think so, too.
To add to the mix. Look, motivation's never been an issue for Austin Eckler. That dude has maxed out his career in a way that very few players his side and undrafted. I mean, he's had an incredible career. So I don't know if trying harder is going to get it done for him. I'm not excited about that backfield, Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson. They've been incredibly active, Dan. Brandon McManus. There is a kicker changing teams, is a commander. Dante Fowler is a commander. Nick Allegretti, the guy who you might remember stepped in the Super Bowl for the Chiefs the last couple of games, he's a commander. Cleveland Furl, a lot of Super Bowl experience. And then Jeremy Chin, that's one that I like out of all these, just as kind of a bit of a flyer, 1 year, $5 million. Had a nice early couple of years for the Panthers.
They're turning that roster over, and yet until they need this quarterback to hit. Until they get the new quarter, they got the owner out. Now they got to get the quarterback right. And then there's just something so gray to me with that team, and they need that someone to kind of electrify the team. And I know the fans feel the same way.
It is a good sign that a bunch of players followed Dan Quinn from Dallas to Washington. And this is a team that I feel like, especially on a Ron Rivera, it's like just plug in aging veteran milquetoast quarterback for 2,000 years in a row. It's it's a new experience for them to go draft a rookie.
I mean, it might work out for the Patriots, but that win over the Broncos on whatever it was, Saturday night or Sunday night, it was like Christmas Eve. And the fact that you couldn't win one game down the stretch, Ron Rivera, how did that team turn into a 4-win team? They go and steal that 2-pick, and they're sitting pretty.
And that stiff kicker of yours, Pipes won with the game on the line after missing 14 kicks earlier.
Oh, that's right. So it does annoy me. I wish they had their
welcome to how the other half live, Greg. Yeah. It's not fun. All right, one more before we take a break. Patrick Queen, the linebacker, former first-round pick of the Ravens, who had a breakout season last year. Once Roquan Smith hit the scene in Baltimore, he was able to leverage that not into a new deal with the Ravens, but a contract with the rival Steelers, 3 years, worth up to $41 million. I don't know what the real money is, but Queen goes to Pittsburgh. And another one, Mark, that just makes sense.
Well, it's two teams. If there's two teams I could pick league wide to make good use of these signings, it's Pittsburgh and it's the Ravens. It does feel like this is the free agency maelstrom where you're getting a lot of player goes from A to rival B, and there's some juicy storylines. You can already see that when Patrick Queen's lined up against the Ravens and Lamar Jackson in week 3 on Sunday Night Football. That's your storyline going in there.
This Steelers regime has really struggled to fix this inside linebacker position, something they used to be known for, and they've just been throwing good money after bad. They finally got a little more aggressive. They're usually not too aggressive in free agency, but the real money really is a 1 year, $14 million contract. I think Patrick Queen would be high on the list of guys who were most disappointed by the market he had when he got to free agency. Jordan Brooks, Frankie Louvu, they got better deals, but really all the off-ball linebackers, none of them hit it too big.
All right, let's take another break, and we will continue on.
Before we take a break, let's do a little breaking news. Perfectly timed breaking news.
Bang.
The Steelers are sending wide receiver Deontay Johnson to the Carolina Panthers.
Whoa.
Hey, Bryce Young actually has a wide receiver.
That's good. That's a good trade. I don't even know what the terms are.
We don't either. Nobody knows yet.
Man, the Panthers need juice. Adam Thielen, for all the tread on his tires, he put together a nice season for them, but they obviously need to fill the DJ Moore hole. And does Deontay Johnson, is he a knucklehead? Like, is he a guy that you could trust to be your down-to-down number one dude and anchor of the offense? We'll see, but he certainly has the talent.
No, he gets open, and we've got an update. It is a quite interesting trade, a player-for-player trade. Deontay Johnson and a late pick. I think it's pick 240. What round is that? Sixth, probably. And then the Steelers get Dante Jackson. Very confusing. Deontay Johnson for Dante Jackson.
Should we give him a new name, too?
Dante Jackson, who is kind of an up-and-down cornerback, but good when he's been good, and pick 172. So the Steelers get 178. They get a day 3 move up in the draft, and they get a cornerback in exchange for Deontay Johnson. I mean, cornerbacks, they need cornerbacks in Pittsburgh. I get it.
I think that
seems
Dante
good for Carolina.
Jackson fits for the Steelers. I really think he does.
He's like a nasty sort of thing.
He really
I like
does.
Deontay Johnson. I mean, that's a
I like Deontay, but I think if you're inside the Steelers world, Deontay Johnson had those weeks last year where he was accused of not putting in full effort, and I wonder if he burned bridges. I mean, he's talked about in trades for a while, so it's like,
but also bitterly disappointing because he's so talented. But his act obviously is what got him sent out of town. And geez. So the Panthers are taking a little bit of a roll of the dice there in terms of who you're bringing in, but if it works, I think it's a good trade.
Yeah, they
I think I'm fine with both
it is
sides.
so hard to get wide receivers, which is why throwing DJ Moore of all people into that trade, I think really hurt Carolina. They felt, they need 2 more, but you can't start getting 2 to 3 good ones without one first, and he gets open. I mean, he is a perception favorite. We've got another bit of breaking news. I think
Tepper be talking?
It's not Carolina, but it is a fun one. During the show, the top guy left on my top 101 was Danielle Hunter.
Yes.
He got taken off the board. Now it's the number 2 guy on the list, or number 3, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is returning to the Eagles on a 3-year deal.
Isn't that nice?
Up to 30.
Took a little 1-year break.
There you go. He's back. Eagles are like, oops, we messed up. Come home.
They do feel like they messed up, I think, with that James Bradbury contract. They could have just given that money to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson last year, but oh well.
Isn't it nice when you could correct your error like that? Like us with Van Ginkel.
He's only 26 years old, and he has bounced around, but that was a perfect spot for them. And their secondary was rough last year. Like, as exciting as they were, or they look offensively, I still have questions about the defense, but this helps.
Yes, that late season collapse was almost unique. Like, you have not seen anything like that from where they started to where they finished. So changes are being made in Philly, and we'll see what happens. Let's take a break, and we will finish out the news. And now another edition of NFL Media Insiders. Friends or foes?
And Cowboys
speaking of
longtime
receivers
All-Pro.
who would...
Okay. Yep, never mind. Go ahead. Thought it was me.
Listen.
I was told I was going.
No, it's
all right.
it's
Go
okay.
ahead. You got it, Mike. Do it. Ian's not paying
Your voice
attention.
is-
I'm
your
talking. I'm
voice
not
is
even
in
on
my
the
head.
screen. It's the voice of God, Mike. It's the voice of God. Tell me about something else, please.
Yeah.
It's been
We
a
usually
long,
make it
it's
till-
been a
All right,
long couple of days.
I'll tell you
Are we
about- no, I'll
25
tell you about
hours
something
into
else
this
real quick.
frenzy?
Oh my God.
We're live, guys.
I mean,
We're not going to tape.
They're getting worn down with a barrage of news that seems to never end. I feel like the only one thing is what life is about at this point. It's just NFL transactions.
Let's hear another one. You
Bullets
got
in the
another
head.
one? It's a good app so far.
Andrew, if I may, Tom is usually the most buttoned up, the most on the money of us all. So when even he is just like, oh, my bad, I thought it was, it's coming unraveled. And that worries me because we still got a couple of days left.
I mean, to think that Josie Jewell got us off the tracks.
Yeah, Josie
You
Jewell
wanted
got
the
us back
frenzy.
on the tracks.
You got the frenzy.
You'd almost have to say that our critique yesterday
Right.
on various platforms.
Don't say our. You mean,
Well, no, I
you made
certainly-
it a little personal, and I was taken aback.
I wouldn't have gone there
Yeah.
out of pocket, but when the topic came up, I went down that road. But it's like it was a bit of a flashpoint focus on some level, like an understated media,
wow.
because it just seems to be growing and growing. Like,
Wait,
look,
so you're saying this could be the beginning of the end for the Insiders?
no, I'm just
That's
saying
what
that like
Flashpoint Focus is kind of
it's
about.
24 hours later, and the tension seems to be only rising.
Right. You could also say an entire segment on the show called NFL Media Insiders, Friends or Foes might be teasing this as well.
That's true.
It's a good point.
It's a concern. It would be good to do a Flashpoint focus on the insiders and just have one of them on.
Mike G.
Or all three of them.
Mike G.
I think Mike G would give us unvarnished.
But Mike G also
takes on
what I love is he's willing to be just a tad removed from some of the deeper what it seems to be going on there from what we can tell, and he could give us not a one-sided opinion, but sort of
maybe we can get maybe we'll get Mike on next week or something.
I'm sure he'd be
check in
excited to discuss
on the
this
status.
issue.
I think he actually would. He might get a text about it after the appearance, but all right, let's get back into it. So yes, Tyrod Taylor leaves the Giants. He gets replaced by Drew Lock. The Jets ruined their season last year. That's not a overstatement. By not addressing quarterback behind Aaron Rodgers, by going with Zach Wilson, who had given them no indication of an ability to play starting quarterback in the NFL at a high level through 2 years, to then say he was the backup, and in only the Jets moment, Rodgers blows his Achilles. We're going to get to Rodgers in a second. On the fourth play of the season, Wilson is a train wreck. They end up using a bunch of quarterbacks. Season ruined with a great defense. Tyrod Taylor now joins the fray, and Tyrod Taylor is like the backup's backup. Like he is, if Jake Brisket is president of the backups club, Tyrod Taylor might be vice president. Like Aaron Rodgers might be vice president soon. But like I love like Tyrod as a backup. I don't like durability concerns. We already have a 40-year-old quarterback, but I can't say anything else other than, okay, you've professionally filled the backup spot this year, unlike last year, Joe Douglas. So from that standpoint, good job by the Jets. They also addressed their offensive line in some way. Ravens guard John Simpson, who was a starter for all 19 games for them last year, he gets signed to a contract, so he immediately becomes one of their starting guards. And they also take a flyer on former 49ers first-round pick Javon Kinlaw, who signs a one-year deal with the team.
Love Tyrod. Love the bizarre transformation he made. Love the Jets agreeing with me and not Nick Westling, who thought Tyrod was way too high in my rankings. He was like 80-something. It's like, calm down. Tyrod used to be, in my mind, Tyrod was always overly safe. Like, he can run, and he's got a good arm, but he's just, like, very conservative. And then when he came in last year, he was like, this career might be ending soon. I'm going to turn into Ryan freaking Fitzpatrick. He led the NFL by far, according to PFF, in big-time throw rate.
He was slinging the pill.
17 big-time throws in very limited sample size. But, if it's anyone over 50 dropbacks in the league, he had a couple hundred. Easily number one. And it's a good list, too. It's Stafford, Josh Allen, Geno, Dak, Trevor Lawrence. Like, it's a good list. He was slanging it.
And he's like, the whole Zach Wilson thing beyond like his actual play, it was just a weekly storyline. And there was drama. And then at some point, he and Rodgers, you're hearing about, weren't as close as you thought. And it's like Tyrod Taylor brings zero drama. And the Jets could use a player like that to just, he's not going to get into the headlines as far as we know. Probably he will. That's how it works. But
he also seems to get hurt, like,
well, right. His
quickly,
durability
is
is like a continuing narrative everywhere he goes. But hopefully he doesn't have to play at all.
And
John Simpson, a nice little mauler, will blow up your opposing defensive lineman with some splash blocks.
Some of his pop the hood analytics suggest he is, after an up and down start to his career, maybe a good signing. So I hope so. Now, Aaron Rodgers is still the QB1 ostensibly. He hasn't really played for them yet, but we get everything else with Aaron Rodgers, including this from the New York Times. Hit it, Aaron. The New York Times. This is a headline that broke about an hour and a half ago. Aaron Rodgers and Jesse Ventura top RFK Jr.'s list for running mate. Here's the lead by Rebecca Davis O'Brien. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has recently approached the NFL quarterback Aaron Rodgers and the former Minnesota governor and professional wrestler Jesse Ventura about serving as his running mate on an independent presidential ticket, and both have welcomed the overtures. Two people familiar with the discussions said. We have a lot of overseas listeners. It is almost a certainty that it will be Donald Trump versus Joe Biden in the November presidential election. One of those two guys will most likely become president. RFK, who seems like a nut and is a big anti-vaxxer and all that other stuff. And I don't even care enough. Don't come at me with actually RFK is good. I don't care. Just take it somewhere else.
He's not.
he's the Ross Perot of this election for people that are old enough. Can he take votes away from one of these, the Democrat or the Republican? So he does potentially have a big role in this election. And the fact that Aaron Rodgers potentially is mulling the idea of being vice president tells me again, and let it be known that I'm on record. I said it a month ago on the show. I feel terribly about this upcoming Jets season. Aaron Rodgers, who came out and said after the year, no more distractions. Now he's in talks to be a vice presidential candidate. And by the way, when, Mark, is the presidential election?
It's right in the heart of the NFL season.
And when is
it takes months and months and hours and thousands of hours of time to run.
When is the very beating heart of the election process, when you're on the run-up to the election and you're traveling, crisscrossing the country?
The autumn into late autumn, and then
August, September, October. So, I mean, Aaron, come back to us, number one, for even kind of allowing this to get to this point, but I'm sure he will explain it in a way that makes sense to him. The fact that it's coming from the Times and is reported by all the highest or most respected media outlets tells you it might be real.
He said it. He's on record saying that those are at the top of his list, and he's talking to Rodgers consistently. Rodgers, just a few years ago was quoted saying, "I'm an athlete, not an activist," and said he didn't want to be treated that way. Now he has a legitimate chance to be the vice presidential candidate, and this isn't just like lately in American politics, when there's a third or fourth party on the ballot, they don't get any meaningful vote. It can be anywhere from like less than 1% to 2 to 3%, something like that. At least right now, it appears that RFK Jr. has a chance to get not a chance to win, but a chance to get a sizable part of the electorate to vote for him, anywhere from 10 to 20%, something like that. And Aaron Rodgers might be on that ticket.
Can't fix stupid.
I can't imagine this was actually going to happen.
He's married to Cheryl
But who
Hines
knows?
of
Who
Curb Your
knows?
Enthusiasm. I think that she'd be
we probably should stop talking.
I wouldn't be terribly. I mean, I'd be disappointed by the overall boondoggle when it was over. But if Rodgers decided to retire tomorrow to take this run seriously with Kennedy, I don't think that would be the worst thing for the Jets.
What if he runs and he
with you.
plays for the Jets? Nothing's off the table right now.
I would
and
think
his weekly McAfee appearance becomes like his stump. Instead of traveling the country, he just
actually, because if you were to, you're voting for a quarterback who could be unfurling heroics every Sunday versus clunky speeches, it might be a better place for vice presidents aren't seen in high esteem typically.
Does this sound like
Sidecars?
anybody you know in the NFL? Mr. Kennedy, 70, has in recent years become prominent for his vaccine skepticism and his promotion of conspiracy theories about the federal government and public health apparatus.
Yeah, there seems to be there's a match there.
Greg, you're saying let's move on, but that's the news, dude. This is in the New York Times, brah.
It's crazy, man. Well, yeah, this
isn't us just shooting from the hip, right?
No,
I know, but we're gonna get there is we're gonna hear from the RFK Jr. bros, and there's no group that's more annoying. I guess maybe the Aaron Rodgers bros. They're all as one.
Lions gave up. Let's move on. Okay. The Lions got Carlton Davis. To receive Carlton Davis, they gave up a 2024 third-round pick and 2 sixths. So that's a nice move by Detroit, who really need to make upgrades to their defense, and Davis helps there. They also added Marcus Davenport and cornerback Amik Robertson. So the operation in Detroit making moves as well.
Little surprising that the Bucs did this, but it just was kind of a cap move. Carlton Davis is a number one type of cornerback when he's right, but like so many cornerbacks, it's a tough position to pick a guy long term. He'll look like a Pro Bowler one year and kind of disappoint the next. He's had some injury issues, but a little surprising the Bucs gave up on him.
Like if Aaron Rodgers retired by
Have
choice,
to be soon. By the way,
he'd have to get the guaranteed money goes away, right? That goes back into the coffers.
I would say one thing about him. I think he would not try to fleece the Jets financially. I think he would.
He says he had some interview. He says he wants to play 4 more years recently.
No, he's talking about being president.
Yeah, he wants to do someone else for
4 more years. Ara. I'm Robert F. Kennedy. Ara. Welcome Aaron to the stage. Ara. All right. The Seahawks keep Leonard Williams and tight end Noah Fant. They bring him back on new deals. The Dolphins also staying busy, signing linebacker Jordan Brooks, Shaq Barrett, Mark, center Aaron Brewer, and linebacker Anthony Walker.
You Dolphins fans, it's not all doom and gloom. You're still making moves.
Mm-hmm. You like the Shaq Barrett signing, Mark?
I was officially wrong about Shaq Barrett about a half a decade ago when I thought like he had that 1 5-sack game where I was like, it's just sort of a flash in the pan. He was much more than that.
Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion.
Like an anchor to a Super Bowl winning team. So X marks the spot on a bad opinion by me half a decade ago.
Is a nice signing.
A bad opinion, I also would say, is let's team up Jameis Winston with Deshaun Watson in the same quarterback room.
Did you read what Jameis Winston said?
No.
So he basically
Tell me how you feel about it.
he had other offers, and he said he wants to go to Cleveland specifically. He feels like it's almost like a spiritual calling to go and work directly with Deshaun Watson. It's a very Jameis Winston social media post he put out there, but like that's why you chose
what, to like be his Svengali, or
I think to help him,
to guide him spiritually,
to help him grow. That was the
Jameis Winston.
Yes, that was the intonation. If you read,
well, I don't know if you've seen, he's done some pastor type work. There were some great clips of him speaking in church while holding a baby and making a very thrilling talk. Weird QB.
Did the baby get intercepted shortly thereafter?
A very thrilling
hey now. I mean, he's a legend. That is gonna go down as one of the best last snaps ever.
That's a great way to end. You knew it was over, and he had the fake kneel down. That's how it ends with the Saints. I can't get over, and that's amazing that he's going to help Deshaun Watson see the light. That's
getting
incredible.
Good backup money, which does to me indicate, look, they wanted someone that could play. Sorry,
wait, they had the best backup in the league last year, and he's a free agent. His name is Joe Flacco.
I'm with you. I think we talked about this. Like, I think the Joe Flacco presence and what he created last year was probably like, is this too much of a distraction if Watson continues to be the
hate
bet?
that thinking, and
he was awesome for
I
them.
agree with you. I think
I think
that's an element here between the fans and maybe the locker room and whatnot. They just
So we bring in a known knucklehead in Jameis that no one will have.
I don't think.
Okay, now I understand.
I mean, he is a no knucklehead, but I think teams enjoy the experience.
His teammates like him though.
Oh, good.
Well, that does in football. That does. I'm not sure that's true of
it just
the
feels
other quarterback on the roster.
Listen, we just finished about my quarterback is mulling a VP run with an insane person. But the idea that you would pair Winston and let Flacco walk is one of the crazier moves I've seen so far this week.
I don't like it. They did keep Zadarius Smith, which I think is very important to edge rush the passer across from Myles Garrett. He was a big difference last year.
Is everyone, because Flacco hasn't, obviously you haven't heard his name connected anywhere, is everyone of the belief that was just a little hot streak and he's now no longer?
He said he wants to start. I mean, any quarterback would say that. Cleveland seemed like the logical spot. He wanted to go to Cleveland.
He's been connected with the Titans, which I think would be a good backup spot.
Yes, you mentioned Smith, Maurice Hurst, Nyheim Hines, running back, also joins that room. Of course, Nick Chubb coming back from a really ugly knee injury and subsequent surgery. Afternoon delight. 8 o'clock delight. It's not the afternoon. It's either the morning or the night. It's not the afternoon. Greggy. Levante David stays with the Bucs. Wow, he's a Bucs lifer, just like Mikey Evans. The Rams bring back cornerback Darius Williams. Kenny Moore staying in Indy on a 3-year, $30 million deal. And the Panthers continue their spending. Guard Damian Lewis, linebacker Josie Jewell, and also A'Shawn Robinson. Anything there?
Spending a ton of money. Damian Lewis got a big contract, so they gave 2 huge contracts to interior linemen. They think that's the key to keeping their diminutive quarterback upright.
Does any team bring back safeties and cornerbacks more than the Rams?
That's right.
They've done it with
Darius
3 different
Williams was
people.
playing well with
run.
Jacksonville, and but now he's playing. He's going back.
The Titans signed former Chargers first-round pick Kenneth Murray. The Bills bring back Daquan Jones. The Chiefs signed Deion Bush to a new deal. And Irv Smith, welcome aboard. So there's a new piece of the offense for Patrick Mahomes, the tight end, veteran tight end. Bears signed tight end Gerald Everett. Eagles signed Devontae Parker, formerly of the Pats. Packers bring back all-pro return slot corner Kezian Nixon. Anything on those?
Patrick Mahomes restructured his contract to open up a lot of space as we enter the new league year on Wednesday, where trades could happen. Just something to keep an eye on with the Chiefs.
Nice. We'll be right back.
I am Paul Scheer, and I am here to present the best sports podcast. And I'd really just like to take a moment here to see how far we've come. Because we just used to listen to dudes who didn't play sports talk about professional athletes, and now we listen to professional players talk about athletes. A lot.
Classic
and it's
Scheer.
pretty great. And now our nominees for the best sports podcast are...
The nominees for Best Sports
I
are
remember Scheer from Best Week Ever.
New Heights,
We're probably Vikings. There's probably some Viking blood down the line, so.
I was lifting weights down the shore one time, and one of the guys was like, "You definitely have Viking blood in you."
Club Shay Shay,
But normally people normally tell the truth to kids, drunks, and angry people. So you're not a kid.
I'm not a kid.
You angry?
No, I ain't angry, but boy, hey, boy.
Pardon My Take,
If you ever thought it'd be fun to like, hey, let's just try to hit 41 free throws in a row with your friends, it's not fun. It's not fun.
It's not fun, especially if a lot of your friends don't play basketball.
Around the NFL,
Patient when he needed to, being aggressive when he needed to, and just always doing the right thing because that's what great quarterbacks do.
The Dan
It's true.
Levitard Show,
Olsen and Romo make you feel like they're enjoying their Sunday as much as you are. Brady's starting point is,
Who is
I
this
think
guy?
the product's mediocre the moment I leave the field.
Here we go, everybody. Buckle up.
And the winner for the iHeart Best Sports Podcast goes to Club Shay Shay.
Boo. Boo.
Well,
Boo, 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 boo.
I had this.
Losers.
We lost. I had
We
this
are losers.
mounting feeling that we were brought there by corporate types because we
Yeah.
were going to win. But then when we got there to this
Now,
actual
you did
ceremony,
predict it. Yes.
well, because I was like, there's no way Shannon Sharp's coming to this, but they flew us here. But then the minute Shannon Sharp walked through the doorway, and then when we also found out that there was a roped off section for a level of talent,
yeah.
and we were not allowed into that roped off section, it's
Not
like,
a good sign.
we're not winning this.
That's when
We're not winning.
The first class and champagne days were over. When I saw literal red velvet ropes and a gleaming white couch for one of our competitors, and while we were stuck amongst the riffraff, I said, I don't think this is going our way. And sure enough, you would say, wow, Club Shay Shay, that was a big Shannon Sharp, the Cat Williams interview. That was, the viral hit of the year. I can't believe they beat the Kelsey brothers. Well, then the next category was Best Podcast of the Year. Kelsey brothers took that home. They had a video recording of Travis and Jason with just the vaguest idea what they were even accepting, especially Travis. Travis seemed to be completely in another world. But congratulations to all the winners.
Right.
It is an honor to be nominated. As you heard from that crew, those are all huge podcasts. So the iHeart Podcast Awards, we were there. It was cool. We thank iHeart, and they flew us down there. Not to win. That's the last time I ever go to an award show and don't win. If that means I don't go to another award show, so be it. But I will never go and lose.
There was
ever again.
because there was a point where we were like, wait, have other losers been flown here?
Right. We started asking.
Yeah.
We started at a certain point after a couple of drinks, because the open bar was open. You start asking hard questions. It was like, is there anyone else connected with a podcast nominated that's not a winner tonight?
That's standing.
Right, and I came to the conclusion that we were alone in that category, and that maybe we were behind the scenes, the ruse was on, and we were being snickered at through the whole 48-hour process by various individuals.
I did not share your guys' optimism. Even on the way there, I was hiding behind the hey, 1 in 5 chance. I wouldn't give us any more than that. Why would you expect to? Probably in my heart, if I had known Shannon Sharp was there, that was the moment where that we didn't have a chance. And yes, they have all these roped off,
not a good sign,
couches, and they have different personalities. Kyle McLaughlin was there. Chris Pine was there.
Adam Devine,
popular podcaster or YouTuber Bobby Altoff was there, and
she was there.
And
yep.
I just, I'm someone who wants to find out and just make sure, even though it sure didn't seem like we had access to those couches, But Dan witnessed, what he termed a very embarrassing moment of me.
I wasn't going to bring it up. But
Making sure that we couldn't get into those couches and, seeing if I could get in there. And I was told no, I did not have access to that. And I thought, well, at least I got my boy Dan backing me up here. But Dan quietly walked away from me as I was trying to do
Once I saw the 6'8", 340-pound bouncer type dude in front of the velvet ropes give Greg a look like, what? I was like, okay, I'm going to take just about a half step back here. Not to be connected to a very low moment in history.
And I mean, look, did it dent my pride a tiny bit? Like a tiny bit. But I think the calculation was worth it. If I had an even 3% chance of sitting on that couch for the show instead of standing, I wanted to find out for sure. I wanted to make sure.
Always ask someone else to ask is one of the
good move in that situation.
If you're talent, especially, don't actually be the one like, sir, can I get behind?
Well, my plan.
I think you actually had to say we're talent, which is a toughie to say. Hey, we're talent.
I don't think I said that. I
ropes.
didn't say that. My plan was to just walk in there confidently because it's a lesson in life.
That works.
If you're going somewhere you're not supposed to be, just look like you belong. But he stepped forward and the rope was up. And
unless
so
a guy that looks like
it
Calais
wasn't
Campbell
happening.
is the
It wasn't
the bouncer.
happening. I don't
You're not
think I said
walking
we
through.
were. Yeah.
Yeah.
Humbling experience on various fronts.
We did get, and like I said, congratulations to Shannon Sharp.
You know what? He made a very heartfult speech that actually showed it meant a lot to him, and I was like, okay, you got to give it to him. I like that.
Well, I didn't say we have to give it to him, but I would say, he's had a meteoric rise in the industry, and good for him. Club Shay Shay follows him everywhere he goes. He did have something to say about us as well.
I'm calling the president. President, we need a National Guard. We need as many men as you can spare because we are killing the
heroes.
Now that's turned into a low moment in Patriots history and my own personal histories.
Yeah. But again, cool. Open bar. Had some good barbecue before at Terry Black's with our old buddy Matt Tanton.
Yeah.
And another experience, another notch on the belt. Humbling, but also.
Well, it instills in us a sense of revenge. We'll be back. I think they lit a fire under our
You
butts.
said
on the shoulder is huge.
You said, Dan, as this was happening, this is just so perfect for our podcast. It just makes so much sense how it all sort of played out. And you know what? And we talked about it afterwards too. That was a scene because it was a strange, it was an award show. It was strange to be there on some level. We thought Chris would have really gotten a kick out of it. / been disgusted by it. Probably enjoyed it in the end. It would have blown.
Probably.
It was an open bar. Chris would have enjoyed that as well.
Yeah.
I think it would have been. I think we all were enjoying the. It was kind of an outrageous scene. The way it was, and it was live. It streamed live and everything. So anyway, like my wife was watching it live at my son's Little League game. So she got to see us lose.
And she doesn't listen to a single episode of the pod, so that kind of you got her to participate.
That's true. And I did. I sent a text because I had alerted my parents that we were going to be in Texas and we were up for an award. And when I texted Deb and Keith that we lost to Shannon Sharp, my father's response, and his texting is always, as many men his age, very taut. It's very straight to the point. We lost to Shannon Sharp. I never cared for him. I don't feel that way about Shannon, but I'm glad that Dad has
it's his opinion.
Has our back. Oh, he also added, I didn't see this one, and bad on predictions. Ooh. So kind of get
okay
in terms of his punditry as well. Love it.
Oh, I thought he meant our prediction that we were going to win. Also bad.
All right, anything else? Tomorrow is the official start of the league year. Now I feel like we're doing too many shows. We're going to do tomorrow's show, and then we'll see what comes after that. But make sure you tune in because we're going to have what's out there. What's the biggest thing still out there?
I'd say I don't think anything's going to happen. Maybe like the Justin Fields situation.
Well,
it's a little strange.
Or Justin.
Okay, so only 6 of the top 25 are available, even starting that list.
Who are the 6?
On Monday. And that's like a list. The entire top 13 off the original list are gone. But who are the 6 from my top 25? Tyron Smith, Calvin Ridley, Kendall Fuller, Marquise Brown, not much of a market for him, Stephon Gilmore, Chase Young, who is reportedly going to take a couple visits, and Arik Armstead, who probably shouldn't even be on this list because it was reported he was going to be released. I have some doubts of whether this is going to actually happen on Wednesday, but that's the 6. But 17 of the top 50, 46 of the 101 overall. These are,
I mean, we are getting to the point where, we can make a 475 item news list, but a lot of the big names.
No, but here's what
are gone.
could happen is like that Mahomes restructuring that I mentioned, the trades, anything kind of surprising on the trade front, I think still could happen Wednesday, Thursday.
One big prediction.
What's happened?
One big signing or trade.
Oh, wow.
I'll mention you have Smith atop your list, Tyree Smith.
Yeah.
Jets spend big on him and bring in Smith. That's my prediction.
Justin Jefferson is moved.
Oh, stop.
Oh.
Now you're just getting
the old Sessler Hail Mary at it again.
There are little chirpings and whispers out there that
I mentioned
that's how you'd hasten
to our
a
friend
rebuild.
Roto Pat how we lost to Club Shay Shay, and he said it was probably his Justin Herbert for 4 first-round picks prediction. Right? That did. And
that hurt us. The voters did make
just seemed too
various voters
too
came
outrageous.
up to me and mentioned Pat's Herbert talk.
I think we get a Chargers trade. I think we get a Joey Bosa trade if we want to get wildly specific. Let's go Joey Bosa to the Niners, even though they've signed a couple pass rushers. Why not? Team up the Bosa brothers. I saw,
How about the Chiefs make a substantial move on offense?
Yes.
Yeah, they've done very little.
How about all right, I'll do something with the realm of real. Brandon Ayuk traded to the Chiefs.
Wow, they couldn't do.
Now there are whispers about Ayuk.
Yes, no, there are,
and they haven't needed a wide receiver.
I don't like the Niners. I don't like them doing that in general. It's like then they're one injury away from having exactly the opposite of what they had last year.
Patriots
into the Chiefs.
I've read if they lose out on the Calvin Ridley sweepstakes, they could dive into the trade market. They're just sort of like trying to plug holes, and they might try to get in on the T. Higgins or Ayuk or on a lower level Keenan Allen. Something.
And nothing from the Cowboys seems weird. I feel like they're going to want to make a splash. That's
they got
style.
like Dak Prescott's brother tweeting ill words about the Cowboys front office compared to the Eagles.
All right. We don't need to envy the Eagles after how last season ended. Everyone's so quick to just dive back in on the Eagles.
I know, but we lose. It's like
paragon of how an
free
organization
agency is like creates
watch the games
mental disorder.
Yeah, it does. All right, that's it. Let's go. Let's get out of here. It's time. It's been a long day. It's been a long 3 days. But we'll be back. Till then. Heed the call.